I almost caught Vaughn. He was typing stuff. It's live now, but I'm going to try and catch up the chat real fast. I shared this document with Vaughn and Lit Dev, so all three of us can type on it at the same time. This is crazy technology. This is like groundbreaking stuff. And and Lit Dev DM'd us like a week ago. He's like, hey, we should all three collaborate on like a project with writing, and either as like episodic where each one takes an episode, or like acts within one story where each person takes an act, or any kind of way we could think of to do it. That was kind of the first problem, was to even think of how we might be able to do that. But we were all interested, loosely inspired by what the Malin and Shane and Ethan art collaboration.
Yeah, when they collaborated, with their covers.
Yeah, we're like, well, let's do one, but we'll be writing it. And then the idea was floated of it being a generational horror story. That's kind of its own subgenre. Like Stephen King dabbles a fair amount with that kind of stuff. I feel like it was like that. And then the one that they made a movie of where like the monsters come out of your poop and kill you while you're on the toilet. Do you guys know that one?
I think my friend said they're ass weasels or something like that.
Yeah. But that one has like somehow, there's like a story when they're kids and then a story when they're adults. And then another example of that is freaking, what's it called? It's like it rhymes. I told it to you guys in the DM group. It's like Helter Skelter. It's not Helter
Skelter. Jeepers Creepers.
Yeah,
the Jeepers Creepers one.
Yeah, because that has three. There's 3 Jeepers Creepers, which I guess that director's a pedo. Did you guys know that?
No, he also directed that movie Powder or something. Was that the same?
Oh,
pedo guy?
I think so.
That was a pedo guy from way back when. He's like an OG pedo.
Yeah, maybe we're mixing them all up, but he's definitely pedo. So
the guy that directed and wrote the first Jeepers Creepers is, but I think after the other movies he was not on.
Well, I mean, if he works in Hollywood, it's a pretty safe bet. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, if you see him at a lot of Bryan Singer parties,
just in case of the old separate the art from the artist, I guess, because it honestly is a good horror movie. You're like,
yeah. I mean, SJWs have to do that every day, so I guess we can too. Just hate everyone.
Yeah.
White males writing fiction. Stop it.
But yeah, Jeepers Creepers does it pretty classically and simply, which that's one thing we can type up here is like, it's a simple approach could be the best, or we could try and get pretty weird and intricate too, could be fun. But we'll just start like throwing shit at the wall here in a second. But Jeepers Creepers, it's like the monster comes every 20 years or something, and it basically just has to like feed essentially. So each movie
I like that idea. That idea is pretty cool. Like the Jeepers Creepers idea, where it's like this generational monster, just every once in a while he comes out to feed.
I just love that because I grew up with like cicadas and locust stuffs, and when the cicadas come out here and do their thing, it can be pretty freaky. It's like every 70 something years. So and they just creep me out, and they like feed and breed and then all die, and it's just it's creepy in and of itself. And I just find that I think it'd be cool if a monster kind of emulated that type of creature. And especially in country. Jeepers Creepers already kind of beat us to a country setting, even though I love that because I grew up with it. But it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Did you say like do they bury like the larva pretty damn deep or something? Like that's kind of cool too.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like
they go deep. I don't know how it works exactly, but they live under there for a long time.
Yeah.
Do their thing.
Yeah. So 3 acts, generational. Yeah, and so like Jeepers Creepers is kind of like there's no particular connection, or it can be pretty minor and kind of fun. Or then if it's somehow like a little bit more like each generation is kind of building on the next for them to actually get a chance to maybe kill the creature. That cool.
The one connected thing is the monster. Yeah, it could be like the grandpa, from the first one.
Yeah,
he's still alive, but
yeah, they could try and track down the grandpa's like long gone now, so they actually have to go find him to ask him some questions.
I like the idea that the family is avoiding talking about this horrific thing that they kind of become the keepers of, whether they like it or not. They have to slay it each generation or push it back some way, and then don't tell the next generation about it.
What was it? Like Freddy Krueger, like how no
Yes.
one could remember. No one should talk about Freddy Krueger because he gains power the more people remember him
Mhm.
and fear him.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was also just the parents were trying to hide their sins, right? And that's what drove Freddy, was getting payback for that. They had to, and in movie they had the whole town like forget everything all the time too. Notice
That's kind of cool.
Remember that?
By the way, 17 people watching. That people are filtering in kind of fast. I wonder if no one else is streaming or whatever. But we got 3 celeb CG writers here too collabing. So this is a fun stream. We got Kitaru Witch Hunter for Ron, Dr. Alpha, Dead Man's Lullaby, with Lit Dev and Hotel Story for me, all still available. So keep an eye on those. We might take a slightly more detailed look at those at the end of the stream too, and I'll shout them out here and there. But so that's a little quick commercial break. Yeah, look, Vaughn, when you click on it, I can see your little guy. I can type where you're typing. I'm like, I type too.
Hey, dude.
Typey. I destroyed your typing. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's typing wars. My internet destroys yours, I guess.
Yeah.
Have you ever read the story by Junji Ito called Tome? It's kind of like that a little bit too. Where she's like at first she was like a normal girl, and then I think she got murdered, and then she came back to life as a demon thing, and her whole thing is about seduction, and she drives people insane because she's just so beautiful and everything, and it gets really weird. It gets really weird with the stories, but each one is different, and it's like this. It does go generational, where it could be years later, and like this guy's older now. It's like, oh, it's her again, something like that. And she can't really die. Like I think one time she got killed, and she usually drives the men she attracts insane to the point where they just murder her. And then like one time she got killed, and then she slept in the carpet, and the carpet came to life because it was her.
Nice.
It's creepy. Like she's immortal, like an immortal demon thing.
Right.
But
succubus.
Yeah, succubus, but you can't destroy her.
Right.
I watched a YouTube video on her a little bit, and it was definitely cool. Yeah, that can be an inspiration. Well, I was going to say, too, with Jeepers Creepers, one thing that gets kind of fun about it is there is quite a bit of intrigue about the monster. And, like, I think I don't know if it's earlier, but you start to wonder, like, what's the deal with his lair, and what's the deal with his truck? And his truck has, like, some ancient weaponry associated with it. And you're like, what's the deal with that?
Yeah, he's like a bat thing too, and then like he sews all the bodies into the wall and stuff, and preserves them.
Yeah. So there could be like
preserves himself with body parts, doesn't he?
Yeah, he steals people's like tongues and eyes and stuff.
He keeps himself kind of going. He's like a vampire ghoul almost. Like a mix. It's like a hybrid.
Since CG does a lot of like, okay, they return to beautiful women. What if our monster was like a generational succubus?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be okay with that.
I thought you might be going with that when you were talking about it before. So yeah, I mean, not a bad idea.
Like she comes to life. I mean, she's like a statue or something like that. And she comes to life every so often to hunt down men or energy or something. I guess she would absorb energy because that's kind of what succubi are supposed to do. Usually in your sleep, which is kind of like the Freddy Krueger thing too.
Yeah. Well, even with that, like there's some fun kind of tropes to play with. Like, the example that came to my mind is a comedy, but it's called Once Bitten. Have you guys heard of that movie?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think I have.
That's what's his name? Who's the super famous
Jim Carrey?
Yeah. It's Jim Carrey 10 years before Ace Ventura. He like had a kind of false start of fame. And I think that like might have fucked with him because that's part of why he's weird is because he like kind of got famous but then didn't. And then he was like, what? And then he made a deal with the devil and then he got super famous. And so, but he did Once Bitten in like 1984. And it's kind of a cool plot. It's like a vampire high-risk woman needs a virgin, but there's no virgins in 1984. Everyone's getting laid, but she finds like
I love the 80s.
Yeah, she finds like one nerd, and it's Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. It's a prequel to Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, basically.
Brilliant. Yeah, and it's kind of got a cult following now. It's a beloved 80s tacky movie that people have fun with and like to watch. You see the dollar bin at Walmart and stuff, but anyway.
Well, isn't that how like the horror could go usually? Because usually those old school monster movies that I love so much, you know, the Jason Voorhees, the Freddy. Doesn't it always start off? The first one is kind of serious and dramatic, and then it gets goofier as the sequels go on. Like the Leprechaun one, right? I saw the first Leprechaun one. Wasn't it was a little bit comedic because he's a leprechaun, but it wasn't that comedic. And then all of a sudden, like he's in the hood, and stuff like that later on.
They embraced the grindhouse. And Texas Chainsaw 2 with total comedy almost, and that freaked people out.
What if we did that? There's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre sequel in which like the girl comes in and she's like the usual like victim, and then it turns out she's like the guy's cousin, and then they're like, oh wait a minute, I'm your cousin. Let's go kill all the cops.
That is kind of a funny plot. They realize they're related.
Yeah, he's like, we're cousins. So let me go ahead and team up with you, insane massacre man. So what if like we have 3 episodes, we each write an episode of this, and the first one's dramatic and serious, and then we get more comedic as we go along. So the last one of us will be like the most comedic.
I'm not even necessarily against that. That's kind of hilarious. But we'll type stuff as we go.
I like to play around with tropes, so that's my thing.
Yeah, no, actually, I like the tropes too, and it comes up. So I want to type out though, because it's come up a few times. I'm like, it's kind of sticking with me a little bit. I do like the idea of that the creature buries itself in between, whether it be larva or resting or whatever. It buries itself, and at some point, maybe the last story is one of their last ditch efforts is to dig for it, where they kind of go on the offense and they start digging. And it could be like a big dig project. Like it could be like a big mine.
Okay, so have you ever seen some of those anime where like, they do have demons, but they have like a theme to them? Like this, she's like a moth, or one of them's like a bee or something like that. You know, those old school, especially those old school like 90s ones. What if like she had a cicada theme to her? She's still going to be attractive, but she has like a cicada theme to her.
Yeah, I think that's dope. And we should straight up embrace the cicada thing, because that's like cool. And Vaughn mentioned that right away. And it's like that's a little bit what Jeepers Creepers was doing, but we're doing it even more obvious kind of. And she could be called like a queen. She is my queen.
It'd be kind of creepy if she would come for their firstborn sons or something too, because of, I don't know, just makes it creepy.
Yeah. I typed up here. It could be cool if the monster has a fair amount of like culture of its own, whatever it's like, its lore and the things it does. Like Jeepers Creepers is a little bit like that, but a lot of the questions, because from the viewer's point, you always get curious of like, what's its deal? Like, what is it doing? What is it? Those are fun questions to play with and answer. So we can definitely have a lot of fun with that, but definitely like, it like needs a mate, whatever, every 30 years or something. And it like over the process of mating with a human, it also like lays its eggs in them and they explode. Yeah, they like a horrible death or whatever. So you kind of don't want to do it. It doesn't have to be that though. Like it could be something kind of funny. Like it could be, if we go kind of Junji Ito style, like it actually, if it chooses you as your mate, you actually are the only survivor maybe. But you're super effed up and your trauma is like off the charts. And maybe then you like lay eggs, but even that doesn't kill you. But you're like forced to like lay all these eggs, and you're just like so grossed out.
It's only a guys too, so it's like it doesn't even, they don't give birth to the eggs, kind of just poop them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna put them right.
It's like, oh my God,
not in the dick.
It's like, I don't remember eating Taco Bell. What the hell?
Yeah. I'm gonna at least type this up.
Look up bugs who have egg life cycle that involve animals' rectums and see if you get some ideas from that. It sounds wonderful. I'm glad I ate before.
I guess it could be attached to the fear of venereal disease. Like maybe like you go away and then because I read a Piers Anthony thing about this. There's a very famous well, I guess not too famous author, Piers Anthony. I like him for his Incarnations of Immortality series, but he also apparently did 2 porns for some reason. One was just called Pornocopia, I think, and there was like a one where like this guy just meets a succubus on the beach and he's like just entertains him and something like that. And I think the guy had like a horrible dream that he had sex with the succubus and his dick exploded or something like that.
Oh, but yeah.
They did mention venereal disease, where like she takes it and feels it, but she just gets rid of it. But yeah, I think it's like we'll play into that fear, because that's kind of, if it's going to be horror, it'll play into that fear of like, oh, this attractive woman, and you feel normal afterwards, but what happened? Like, did you catch something? Is something wrong with you now? And so it could be like one of those things where you're walking around infected with something that she left you, but you don't know until later, until it's too late.
Yeah. I like that. That speaking of like tropes and genres, if that's almost like that could be one of the 3 stories if we try and do like 3 slightly different things around this idea over generations. One could follow kind of the mated survivor kind of dealing with this shit. But I like the paranoia of not even knowing if anything's wrong and trying to figure it out.
We're
It's like a
kind of
thing almost.
Guys, it's kind of we're talking about male rape here, okay? And like and it's horrific, but it's kind of a cool story if she's a monster creature and it's like has an alienness to it. She comes out of the ground, she's hunting. I thought I wrote it down below what you're working on, Narwhal, the idea real quick while you guys were talking. Combine the succubus with the locust, right? We're kind of already doing that direction. And she can morph into kind of a hot woman to infiltrate and hunt for that firstborn son by smelling him or whatever it is, to track him down and mate with him each generation. She ends up infiltrating a high school or something, you know. You could put cool scenarios in with her hunt for him.
Well, that'd be pretty cool because what thing we could do is that she's not even a succubus. Like that might be the myth. Like that's a story around her that she's a succubus.
The word they use.
But that she's like actually just a weird monster. That way we can do anything.
Right.
Yeah. And you know what's kind of cool? A little bit like Once Bitten. Like she's like obviously the bad guy, but can have a personality. She could kind of be interesting.
She could be She could be lovelorn.
What if she's a vampire, but is a different flavor of vampire? Like you know how vampires have the bat theme. She has a locust / cicada theme to her.
Yeah, and she's on the cycle. Yeah,
I like that idea because it's you're having fun with it and giving it something new.
By the way, I gotta think the vampire thing is also about venereal disease because you have fun with the vampire and then you walk away infected. I think that's right there. I think that's where I thought about it from actually.
Yeah, I think we should. I like that idea a lot. That it's kind of like a type of vampire is kind of fun. Alex VRB says, "What's its deal?" is practically my catchphrase. What's its deal? That could be if we did a weird dumb comedy. That could be what it's called. Our story.
Like
the working title.
The first episode is it's all serious, like the first episode of Jeepers Creepers, and then we get more comedic. Like the last one, like she goes to the hood, and
oh, dude, that's funny.
He's like smoking with gangsters and stuff.
Yeah,
or so, I don't know, whatever it is.
It could be. This is something maybe we shouldn't do, but yeah, it could be like the area gets gentrified over the 30 years. And so then she's banging rich white people or whatever. I don't know.
She meets that guy from John Mayland's like Black Riding Hood, and because they're both in the hood. And she has to help him fight werewolves and stuff because she's a vampire, and vampires and werewolves are natural enemies or something.
Yeah,
I saw your world.
There's a killer cicadas movie called The Beast Within. You know, it would be a cool twist. I don't know if
I've heard of that one.
I actually haven't seen it, but. So one thing we could do that could be cool is it's kind of hard to figure, but I'll say it is like it's like if she is actually just like a husk, you kind of find out or there's mysteries you can't explain how she acts, and you find out that she is like 1,000 insects occupy the husk to create her, and so they can leave the husk, so you can't always catch her or whatever. Something like that.
I mean, yeah, you could do the mini insects, but I mean, damn, then guys are getting raped by a lot of bugs.
Yeah,
but call it bed bugs, I guess. But it's I like the idea though that maybe she's just her own. It kind of decharacterizes her if she's just a bunch of hive mind bugs. Like it takes that character human part out a little bit.
It's kind of like the Borg at that point.
I would like it if it was like she could molt and she would leave behind like that clear molt that animals and bugs and snakes, whatever, leave behind when they do. And then that's like her shedding her human skin for her real, monstery form,
Yeah. Or she could use the bugs to create a fake version of her
Right, like ninja
Yeah.
style, and have a replacement,
yeah.
and then like get out of there, and then you stab her, and then it just turns into like a dead, dried out husk version. She gets away.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So there's a few movies
Call
that I
HR
haven't.
Keegan. Yeah.
There's a few like movies that I actually haven't seen that are like what we're talking about that I'm sure are kind of cool. They're like the succubus horror movies, but there's like Species, and then there's
Yes.
the one with the chick who plays Black Widow. Do you know what I'm talking about with that one? It's called something Skin or
A Second
Under the
Skin?
Skin.
Under the Skin.
Under the
Yeah.
Skin.
Yeah. Have you guys seen that one or heard of it?
I think I've heard
No,
of it. I haven't seen it.
I only looked up the pictures where she was naked in it, to be honest.
Yeah. She's or that movie's cool. It's like kind of artsy fartsy, but it is
Yeah.
pretty cool. And that what's kind of fun though, I do like speaking of just kind of what we're talking about is like if you have like a kind of a scene where she's kind of latched on to someone, has a target, and is kind of going about her way of catching them. That is like I like how zoomed in that is. You're not even telling a big yarn, but it could be like 20 pages of a comic of her. Like I don't know if you'd want to do that many, but it could be like a lot of pages of her just stalking and catching one person.
You know, I don't know if you guys agree. It's cool if you don't agree, but when I do stuff like this, I like to think of a theme kind of early that kind of helps guide the visual choice. It helps guide the visual choices, even dialogue choices, all kinds of stuff. I like to think of, and I also like, for some reason, keep thinking, how will this succubus character reflect the family in a way, like the family's overall problems and their crisis? How can we make the succubus? In my opinion, it would be cool if we made it her reflect whatever crisis goes for this family, because if it's generational as a story, you don't just do that just to tell a generational story. You do it for a reason, right?
Yeah. What if it's like she's a locust theme. What if like one of the people from one of the ancestors for the past was a greedy person and just kept just steamrolling a bunch of stuff, maybe desecrate some sacred burial ground or something, and they were cursed by some, I don't know, witch doctor or something. They violated some sacred ground, and the guardian of those people was that locust lady, and she comes back every once in a while to regain, she wakens every once in a while after a sleep, and go back after the family. And of course, maybe the first members of the family deserved it, but then now she goes after the family for like forever, and so eventually she's going to start whittling down people who are probably not that bad.
Yeah,
but the curse persists. And they have to learn how to find it.
There's an opportunity too with like the family, if they know that she's coming and they need to prepare like a firstborn, or they know that their firstborn's going to get killed, and then like what would they do? That's a little bit like we were saying in the DMs, like The Lottery, that short story is like there can be like this culture of death. It's a little bit culty, but like what a group of people would even do to deal with that situation. And some Star Trek episodes are like that kind of thing, but I don't know what the family would do, but like they might have to kind of deliberately trick the son, and or they have one person who does know about it, who it's his job to kind of trick and present and prepare the son.
I keep thinking about sharecroppers in the past, and like the locusts come, right? And that's a big deal for them. Like that's a horror time for them. And they could be fighting off these things from eating their crops, and then maybe some horrific deed is done. A murder of a young slave girl, a murder of something horrible that gets this family cursed by this locust creature that comes to mate, and I guess we were having her mate and put some eggs in or whatever. But
I like to think of them being like it's greed, because the locust thing, the locust, they swarm in, they eat everything,
right?
And so that's kind of like the reflection of the greed.
Perfect. That's great. I put the greed.
Yeah, type
greed
that up.
Family, locust. Yeah, it's perfect. And so we would do generational greed, and I don't know. That would be. I've never taken that on before as a writer. That would be interesting. Locusts feeding.
Well, one of the inspirations I had was I heard about this family curse that someone apparently has, where I guess they don't know where it came from, but apparently one guy from their past got this family curse where like every third son or second son or something like that would on their like 30th or 40th birthday, they would just start seeing this creepy red man who's like a rotting weird man. It doesn't do anything to them, but like you can turn around and he'll just be staying there. He can appear at any distance and anywhere, and no one else can see him. And it like just drives you insane because he's freaky looking.
Right.
So it's like that, and so no one else does anything wrong. It's just that it's a family curse that keeps coming in every generation. The second or third or some son will have it, and he'll get it immediately upon his like 40th birthday or something like that.
Wow, like at his birthday party. That was a bummer.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Shitty 40 birthday.
But yeah, I kind of like, speaking of like simplicity, I like the simplicity that the curse was brought upon by a previous generation. They kind of effed the younger generations over. They're dealing with that shit now.
Yeah, it's really relatable to us, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
On that note.
Yeah. And it was just like, a greed-based thing of messing with land that they should have left not developed or whatever. It could be, like it's kind of fun if they messed with like the natives, the natives called like a curse, a witch doctor called a curse. That's honestly like kind of badass. That's sometimes like if it's a Stephen King type thing, it's like you don't explain it forever because you don't need to, and it's kind of fun to not explain it. And then when you do finally explain it, it's like one sentence, and it's like, oh yeah, it was a witch doctor 200 years ago because your grandpa was messing with the land. And like, I kind of like that. But so another possibility is if it was just that they uncovered the creature like when they were developing the land, so that alone like screwed them over or whatever.
Maybe it was like they were protecting it, and then like they're guarding it or something like that, and they broke it, and so that unleashed the wrath upon the family. I guess it could be doing that, because then of course it would be attached to greed, because they would be clearly marked, and the people were like, hey, don't come over here. There's something awful here. We don't. Maybe even the natives guarding it kind of forgot about like the details. They just know by tradition, because this happens in real life and tradition, where you pass down truth over the generations, and people forget the reason why. They just keep doing it, and they stop doing it, and then it kind of, oh crap, that's why we did that.
Yeah.
So it gives me an idea kind of real quick. The idea that she's either a cryptid, or if she's cursed. I also like the idea of someone gets murdered, they get buried. What happens after the bugs are done feeding? They go back into the ground. They all like Naro was talking about, a bunch of bugs form together. They end up creating a cryptid, out of this. And then there's a weird like curse to it because it's got the murder over it. It's both ways I think could work for this, and I kind of like both for different reasons at the moment.
Yeah. And it could be a thing like there's primary threat, which is every 30 years the boss lady appears, but then there's kind of like a little threat that persists throughout all the time, and that's kind of like the babies.
The mother of monsters could be like one of her names. Like she makes monsters. Like you don't die, you become a new monster, like a child of hers. And so maybe there's like a monster hunter could be there. Just to be our monster hunter organization is there, like kind of just hunting down things that she leaves behind. So I assume that she could just do it to anybody. She wants to kill the family that she's trying to kill, but she can just kill anybody and turn them into monsters to help kill the family, or to help the helpers.
You know what could be kind of cool is if there was one plot and it's like a young man who gets raped and has to give birth to these monsters. And that the paranoia period where he's not even sure because he feels fine, so he's like really, but he's seen alien. That wouldn't be a plot point, but like he knows some shit. He's like, I don't want freaking shit to be bursting out of my chest or whatever. But he could like seek out a really good surgeon, and they're actually going to try and like do a crazy surgery to like find the eggs in his body and then take them out. And they might even be like successful, and that would be kind of interesting. Like a way to survive it is just like, oh, if you can do it, but it's the craziest surgery ever. And
that'd be crazy if, like, in the past they killed her babies, so she feels owed, dude. It's like she comes back and she's like, your family owes me. I get to like breed and make babies with like your firstborn son, or some weird poetic shit, whatever she wants to do. And then it's like when she gets the eggs, the guy's worrying about getting killed and whatever. Yeah, you can have the doctors come in, but yeah, it's just kind of cool. I almost like the idea that it's that she sees it as like, this is just the way it is now. Like, you owe me this every generation. I get to make some babies with one of your babies because you killed my babies.
Maybe the witch
Yeah.
doctor, the quote unquote witch doctor in this scenario, we don't really know who he is yet. Maybe he was like one of her firstborn son that just kind of had the idea of being there and being a guide, and then maybe she was worshipped as a god to like this ancient tribe of people, and then she had to go to sleep for a very, very long time, and then that's when the son would just watch over everything, and then they found him. They saw him as like this guardian, and people will talk about him. Like, oh, you're exaggerating. He obviously can't have been this. He couldn't have been this 10-foot tall weird thingamajig. He had to be a regular dude that is kind of this worshiping or something. But in real life, he was like maybe her firstborn son who kind of took on the task of guarding his mother's body as she slept and regained power and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Maybe she was like a harvest goddess or something, as he was seen as a harvest goddess.
That's badass. And you know what that reminds me of too is Grendel and Grendel's mother. Is like a cool like thing that kind of fits over that.
Maybe he was like a Grendel that plagued like the enemies of the tribe while she was asleep.
But having the monster be like mother and son is awesome, and having the curse because the son was killed, that's awesome.
And the family killed her firstborn son, and that's why she goes after their firstborn children.
Nice. It's only fair.
Okay, yeah. Original monster was mother and son duo, like Grendel and mother-esque. And then
I was seeing it as like they wiped out like a whole, swarm, like with some nasty ass Agent Orange or something, and she's like, "My babies."
Yeah.
If you just want to do a son, I mean, that just works too. You have her actual son get murdered. It's still dramatic.
Yeah, and the idea that she has to sleep, and she back in the day she could have been like human too. Something happened to her where she's becoming more of a monster.
Queen.
She became a locust vampire.
Yeah. So she used
a locubus.
Forget.
Tell her she's part Loki. She's like this daughter of Loki. She's one of Loki's daughters. That would work. like Hela.
Yeah.
Hela.
I was thinking too. A thing to think about is if it's about greed, it's like, is the family like pretty rich, and that's kind of part of the story. Is like, or are they?
Yeah, they'll probably be rich.
Times? Yeah, and
I like the idea that they're on hard times. They used to be rich sharecroppers, and now it's like,
or maybe like the first story, they're still rich, and that they'll give them like access to like hire monster hunters and like that. Like, oh, she's coming. Every once in a while, she's coming, so that we have like, and then she can tear through the monster hunters and stuff. I had some little cool stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I like seeing rich people suffer, but I like the idea because we haven't gotten to the family yet. We're still building. And it's like, I don't know. I think it'd be interesting to see the family on hard times going, come on, why are you taking our kids? We don't have anything but them.
Yeah. And if they're like, we used to be like one of their family members is like super prideful. Like, we come from stock. You aren't acting correctly. He's yelling at the kids or whatever, the grandma. Everyone's like, grandma's crazy. Nobody remembers the good times. She's like, times used to be good around here.
Until the locusts came.
Yeah.
And she's always talking about locusts, which is kind of like this, this grandma being like her biblical self, just being like a Bible thumper. The locusts will come down from the sky.
Turn on an appliance that hums a certain way. She looks around, thinks locusts are in the house and shit. All paranoid.
Oh, don't turn that on. You'll upset grandma. She'll think the locusts are coming again.
Yeah. An obvious trope that's a lot of fun too for this too is it's kind of the Seven Samurai thing, but it's like if they know it's coming, they know the lady's coming, so they have time to prepare. And like if they've heard about someone who survived the last time, so they need to find them and ask them like how they survived or whatever. Like that kind of thing is a cool plot. That might be like the second story. If we have right now super loose, but like first story could be like a lot of the culture of the monster and the culture of the family. And then the boy going through the process of getting mated with and then trying to survive and maybe like still failing kind of or whatever. And then part 2 could be like the search for the one survivor to try and get help and try and prepare like a plan to maybe beat the beast And the third could be like if they're like digging, they actually have like a mining company and they're like digging down there or whatever.
I try to find her.
Yeah. Search recruitment part 2, 7 samurai trope. Go get help. Investigate the past. Yeah. What else were we chit chatting about? We got
His son, the son that deals with it. I mean, if you do a or if you do another story generation over, it could be him having barely survived, trying not to trying to protect his son is the next story.
Wouldn't technically one of them being like, oh, we heard
Or
this
is he
guy, the guy who got hit last time, he survived. But then that means, they don't know, but we know that they're going to be looking for a monster because that's kind of what the thing is. Like a vampire, she comes down and changes their firstborn son into a locust vampire thing, like her. So that means this next time they're actually going to be looking for this locust vampire, and like, will he kill them when he sees them, or what happens then? Maybe
yeah.
mentality.
Yeah. I do like pursuing that as a possibility. They could be like, they're not exactly like her, but they're still kind of like monsterish, ghoulish. Maybe it is thought that you're kind of putting him out of their misery, and that could be part of the cultures that the town does then normally kill them, kill the son, because the son would normally survive, but then that son escapes, and so he's out there and they're trying to find him later or whatever. I don't know.
It could be like a Frankenstein. Like he was able to maintain his humanity through his mind. He didn't go like if it changes you, I don't know, mentally, but he goes through the body changes, but he regains his mind. He's like, he doesn't like this. He wants to dedicate his life to like traveling the world and seeing how the mythology behind this lady and trying to stop her. So maybe in the second one they meet that guy, and he can tell them how they might go about stopping her. Like what could they do to fight against her?
Yeah, I do think that
could be. He could be the key.
Yeah, and that could be probably like part 2. I think that could be really cool. Oh, real quick, what about? I'm a little curious about. So just going back the kind of origin stories. There's like that graveyard that the guy was defending, and then somehow them utilizing that land, they got rich from it. Like that could be like it was like oil or something, but I don't know if that's like that's almost like too much of a new world where you kind of need to know that, like, research a lot about oil or whatever. But that could be like, if there's some way, like it could be that it's like that it was gold, like it was gold mining or something, and they kind of discovered
that would hit really good with greed, because that gold is kind of like the icon of greed.
Yeah.
It's like a bit of gold mine.
So that
if you're mining, you could accidentally dig into a monster, couldn't you?
Yeah, it dug too greedily and too deep.
Yeah, and then that could still kind of fit if somehow it's like either a full circle thing. I'm not sure exactly how we'd balance it, but the end being like back to the mining, digging deeper is kind of the plan. And it's like a defunct mine. Everyone's forgot how to even be a miner.
Granddad's backyard, like, well, that he kept digging and digging. Never hit anything except a monster, maybe.
Yeah. And they're gonna just keep digging and try and find it or whatever. But yeah, I think gold, that's another one when sometimes you say it and it kind of feels like it makes sense. It's like it's sometimes like that simple thing, like, oh yeah, gold.
Going back to the secret thing, I do like the idea that in the first one, the next generation does not know me. They're all rich and living in the house or whatever, and then but it's been kept a secret because as we've been talking about, the guy who actually did this, the one who dug the gold and like rampaged over the tribe lands or whatever, that he did some heinous, horrific stuff. Just did like some horrible things. He killed them, he slaughtered people mercilessly, and to access the land and the gold area. So maybe like they're trying to hide their sins, hide their past, and their past is that curse. Or at least part of it is, so nobody knows in the new generation, and so they kind of get caught off guard, but the people like the grandma is like she knows still. She knows. So that's why she's weird. He's afraid of locusts. And at the last minute, she tells him, "Oh no, she's coming. Watch out."
Yeah.
like the son and his wife, like, oh, it's crazy grandma. There's no locust lady. That's dumb.
Yeah. By the way, that is cool. I think we should kind of do that. And there's one other movie that was kind of reminding me. I wish I could remember what it's called. It's an Australian horror movie. But so there's another trope that we could kind of play with is like maybe this first story being kind of more around like a son who's going to get targeted by the creature and kind of the cultures on both sides, the cultures of the creature and then the culture of the family, which is mostly keeping it a secret. But like Vaughn mentioned, it could be like someone, if it's a dad or a mom, we start and they've already made the decision that they're going to try and kind of upset the cycle this time and they're going to try and help their son out kind of. That's one possibility. The other thing is it could be kind of funny if somehow it's like, oh, I inherited an old house. I'm going to go fix it up. And then
that trope.
Yeah. And then he meets his like distant family or whatever. And they're all in on this like cult to make him a sacrifice for this creature that's coming. And he's like, fuck.
Maybe they lure him in with like a fabulous prize.
Yeah.
And they could be weird rednecks, and the tension is there the whole time because you're like, "What the hell are they doing? What are they up to? What is going on?"
Yeah, it could definitely be
Uncle Jerry died. Uncle Jerry died, and oh look, you inherited his giant mansion.
Yeah.
His plantation, man.
His plantation.
Oh yeah, nice plantation.
Oh, that'd be crazy.
Yeah, but the idea of the first story being mostly like paranoia is like appeals to me a lot. Paranoia is like one of my favorite of all the kind of things you can do. Like
maybe she doesn't even come into the end. Like she's barely even in the story. She kind of just is more mythology than like, is she real? Is she not real during the whole thing? Does you feel like freaky things happening? But you don't see her yet. It's like kind of the first Godzilla movie. You don't see the monster for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Targeted and used by family, deliberately keeping him like at arm's length or whatever, not getting attached.
And him being a virgin just makes it funnier, which I like.
He's a virgin, definitely. Yeah.
No reason really. He just is.
Yeah, he just it makes when she's hunting him that much more, she's coming on to him.
I guess
like,
I mean,
what the hell?
It takes an extra like mental strength to deny, because then it'll be easier to get.
Yeah.
She doesn't really do anything. She probably doesn't even disguise herself. Just be like a zoomer. He probably liked that even more. In fact, he was like a zoomer or something. Oh, locust lady, locust waifu.
I love your abdomen and your wings and shit. Does she fly? I like the idea that she like can dive into the ground and move around pretty.
Oh, that's awesome.
Pretty quickly if she needs to. Yeah.
Yeah. She can tunnel. It'd be cool if you found one of her abandoned tunnels too and had to explore it.
Well, what would be cool is like the Rich family, the first time they dealt with her and they lock her down, it's done in this like cool old fashioned over the top rich person way where they have like massive amounts of concrete and like this huge temple built over it to like make sure she can't dig her way out. But like, of course, we reveal in a cool way by the end, she's dug her way out.
Yeah. It'd be cool if she already got captured once and escaped. And like the ruins of her old jail cellar, like down there, whatever.
It's kind of like Tenchi Muyo.
What about that? What was it? The mosquito lady from One Punch Man. I actually put a picture in the chat in the Twitter. It's like that. It's kind of like that, and then the zoomer would be like, "Oh my goodness, this is way better."
Yeah.
My waifu.
He brings her to life because of the waifu thing. I mean, like a whole different story, though.
Yeah, it would.
Like it's a tulpa or something.
What if? So there's kind of enough almost for part 1 and part 2, and then it gets kind of a little hazy, and specifically how part 2 could maybe end. And I know a lot of like the details. Some of the details could come up like, we could go and each write a summary of our part and kind of compile them and start fiddling around and massaging it from there. And a lot of it would come up from that we don't necessarily need to brainstorm like the individual characters. Although it's good to know that there's a grandma and stuff. And I think between part 1 and part 2, there might only be like one survivor, so that we don't need to exchange notes too much. But this idea that part 1 is the paranoia set piece of just the kid getting targeted and dealing with it. Part 2 is 30 years later, and then it's like someone is kind of like, this time we're going to do it differently. We're not going to offer her a sacrifice. We're going to try and fight her, but we need to prepare an attempt to even do that. So we need to like, whether it be like save up money to hire hunters or go investigate and find the one guy who survived the last time and ask him if you can even hurt her, exploring more of the lore, like investigating and like preparing. So it's all, like investigating and preparing, recruiting help, etc. And then it would be like a big fight, I think. And I guess maybe
kind of a downer Empire Strikes Back ending.
Yeah, honestly, that could be kind of sweet.
Yeah.
My idea would be like in part 2, the guy, I guess it'd be, instead of final girl, it'd be final guys, because she'll be after the firstborn son. There's no final girl.
Yeah.
I think the second one, like he would lose, right? He would lose, he'd be caught, and we thought he'd be dead or something like that. And then I guess part 2 is where you find out that the guys that you get don't die; they become monstrous locust vampire things. And then the third one, they actually seek him out or meet him, and he's like, "Oh, here's how you kill her." I spent the last 30 years learning how to actually get rid of her once and for all and break this curse.
Right, Locust Boy shows up basically. And says, "I have the key."
At first, you think it's her, and then because he's locusts around, but then they're like, "Oh, it's this guy." And he's like, "Here's all
very
this info."
Similar silhouette, very Shelley. Did you guys ever see that movie called? What is it called? Meet the Applegates?
I don't think I've seen that one.
It's where these giant cockroaches pose as a human family and work at a nuclear power plant and pretend to be the all-American happy family. And as like time goes on, like the son becomes a drug addict, the daughter gets knocked up by a high school kid, the mom becomes an alcoholic and bank robber who starts just knocking over 7-Elevens for cash. The dad starts cheating on the mom with like some hoe at work, and they become like the worst family, the nastiest, weirdest family. But like, it's such a weird movie, man. Like the daughter gives birth to her baby, and it's a giant larva just flops out of her. Like, it's got a lot of stuff like this in it visually, with like cockroaches, antennas, and weird mutant breeding, I guess we'll call it.
What's that movie called?
Meet the Applegates. I think I could be wrong on the title.
I'm gonna type it. I haven't seen that. It sounds cool.
It was like one of those weird ones you would rent and just be like, "Oh my god, what the hell did I just watch?"
Yeah, and you know what? When you were saying that, it made me think of Texas Chainsaw 2, which that's another fun one where the lore expands and all of a sudden there's like a huge like cavernous like catacombs where they live, and each family member has like a ridiculous personality and stuff, and so it could be like I'm still on. I like doing what Lit Dev said with part 3, but I'm still thinking even like if it's like take the battle to her is like the final step, which is they dig and they maybe like do uncover. They find out like, oh, she actually's not asleep the whole time, but she just has to be underground. So like they find like her, like if it's almost like a castle. Like I don't know if it's an actual castle, but like they find like her home. So you're finding like her friends are down there too, and you're like, yeah, you're murdering them and her babies or whatever, and then
like, maybe she can only be on the surface once every 30 years. Like she absorbs darkness or something like that, and she gains like some I guess protective elements that allow her to be on the surface for like a little bit once every 30 years.
Yeah, and you know what's kind of fun is it's like the vampire trope, but it's like if you find the vampire while they're sleeping, that's like your best chance of killing them. But that's always so intense and scary because you're always worried they're gonna wake up.
You're on their turf. You're on their turf.
Yeah. So that would be pretty fun if she is kind of like sleeping, and you could walk up to her, but like that's not going to end well for you either. Like it's still like how the hell do we get out of this? How do we figure it out or whatever?
You're trapped in a bunch of cavernous tunnels, that she moves easily through and knows, and you don't. I remember in the Applegates thing when anyone would have a problem, like one of the insect family members they would cocoon a person and then hide them in a closet, and they would just be kind of in like sleep stasis, cocooned up. I don't know, maybe they were dead. I can't remember, but like, yeah, they would cocoon their problems away. So it's like kind of an interesting power. Creepy though.
Yeah.
I'll cocoon you away for another day.
Yeah, that's cool. Cool. We're getting.
Look at that.
Places.
It's looking good. It's looking 3 parts happening.
There's plenty there to like jump in. I think the next step might be in the next couple weeks. Let's all kind of take an individual section and write a little summary for it, and kind of start massaging there. We can like adjust each other's, and we'll still kind of co-write, and then we'll kind of run off and each do our own thing probably at the end or whatever.
That may also be kind of fun if we're also inconsistent with the lore just a tiny little bit. Like this, every single one has a this difference in the lore that might even contradict each other. Like like one of those series.
Doesn't that piss off comic fans though?
It's like charming in this genre.
Oh
yeah. It's like Lit Dev's version. She's 12 feet tall. In Vaughn's version, she's 14 feet tall.
She's gay and lame.
Yeah, exactly.
No, really, I'm not joking. She'll be a quadruped and love her life. She's gay too, so the nurse is giving her baths at the hospital is like the best. So she's in heaven, but then the vampires show up.
That's that'll work.
Cool. So the stream can go an hour. Let's look at our campaigns real fast. So 22 people watching. Everyone, thanks for being here.
Dang,
at our peak, I think we hit 33. Which is the age Jesus was when he died. I'm pretty sure. My streams always hit that number. I don't know why, but it's pretty crazy.
Hi Jesus, how you doing?
Yeah. Kitaru Witch Hunter with Vaughn 139 backers, almost 10K, and it's past 10K between the two from my comic, which is awesome.
Hey man, thank you guys so much for supporting so far. It's like 4 days left for this awesome mystery. That's in the first 30. I might keep this going for a little bit, but the book's already done, so I do want to go to print soon and get this in hand soon. I wanted this to be a fast, kind of easygoing campaign, and tells an awesome story about a witch hunter trying to solve a murder mystery. A mom is found hidden, dead inside of a scarecrow, killed in a ritualistic way by a witch, and he's on the hunt as this corrupt town kind of encloses around him. He becomes the hunted. Also, I'm really excited about my art book, which is Necrovonicon. All my designs, all my character work for over 23 years.
This looks like a lot of fun too. Looks awesome.
It's like very personal. A lot of personal notes will be given in this. You can see Radical Rabbit right there. I drew when I was 8 years old. It's very it's got it all. It's got it all. So if you want to learn from me, or if you just like my work, this is an awesome book for you. But yeah, I love making books. I love running campaigns, and this has been a blast. You can get the variant cover by Preston Acevedo. Absolutely kick-ass.
Who will come up later. We'll talk about him also.
Cool.
He's going to be in the book.
He's the cover artist, but
he's the protagonist in part 1.
He will be in the book too. He will. Yeah, we're doing 8 pages. Doing 8 pages together.
Oh, cool! No, that's awesome. Oh yeah. Look at this. This is awesome.
Preston.
Cool.
You
Preston
kill it, buddy.
Acevedo.
Thanks, everybody. I don't know. I love this character. I think people are going to really dig it. It's a fun one and done story with some cool twists and turns, awesome art, slasher, samurai action, and a little bit of crime solving.
It's like a murder mystery, which is like so fun, so classic. So definitely, people check it out. Dr. Alpha Lit Dev, how's this one doing?
I'm doing pretty good. We're pretty much done. I just have to go to print I can go to print any day now, but I'm giving it, doing one last thing where people can, sign up and stuff. So we're ready. We're almost ready to close. Cool. In fact, I'm setting up the orders, just doing the last few things of, getting everything, the covers just right, fixing all the errors in the print so our print's nice. Let's see. I also have a new trailer for it, which I have not uploaded yet. But it is on Twitter. I do have it here if you want to check it out. Let me see.
Oh, I saw it. Yeah.
Here it is. Here we go. Let's see.
Open on.
Guten Morgen, Dr. Alpha.
Nice.
You have been selected as the final test for my latest invention. In fact, you're probably already feeling its glorious effects. According to my calculations, by the time you see this video, you should have about an hour left to live. Auf Wiedersehen, Dr. Alpha.
Loner.
Dr. Alpha, Dead Man's Lullaby, of Man's First Disobedience.
And there we go.
That's a great trailer.
That's
nice
so
job.
good.
Who did the voices?
Oh,
I heard some people on Fiverr did a pretty good job.
Nice.
I'm like, I think I would call myself a Dr. Alpha fan at this point.
Thank you very much.
Like, I just really like everything you do. I really love it. So,
Yeah, it's kind of a fun world too, where it's like it's superhero, but he's like a villain, and it's not exactly like tights and capes kind of thing.
In fact, he's wearing nothing here.
Yeah.
some classic fight scenes in this book already, as you can see.
Yeah.
Hammer
And,
time.
the interiors are done by President Acevedo, so he did pop up again.
Yeah.
He's just
He's getting
killing
around.
it.
He's awesome. Cool. And then Hotel Story. This is me and Jared Jules collaboration, kind of like a horror movie almost, but just done as a comic. It'll eventually be between parts 1 and 2. It'll be 280 pages, and the part 1 is like 130. It's the art's completely done. So this is another one where we're kind of just letting it stew for any stragglers to get in here and back it. It'll be open another month or two probably. Jared's a great cartoonist, real, almost like Cartoon Network kind of style. And we're also debuting his first solo work, which I really love this comic. It's a 48-page haunting horror story, a little bit more like Silent Hill style kind of. But because it's cartoony and like just Jared's kind of style in general, there's like little hints at humor here and there. And that tone is kind of fun and kind of, I don't see examples of it too often. And it's a good example too. It's not like the shitty Marvel tone that's always ruining everything by being funny,
No, yeah. Like, oh, here's a serious moment. We're going to have a fart joke in it or something.
Yeah. And we're doing a making a book. We wrote it together a ton through email. So there's like hundreds of emails back and forth. So I'm going to publish a bunch of those of us brainstorming the story together and stuff. It's a very simple story. Sometimes the simpler the story, it kind of unlocks you to be able to focus on other stuff like fun character and action and type stuff basically. And so this one, it's like the witch Salome, she's casting a mass sacrifice spell for the entire hotel is going to get sacrificed to a demon kind of on her behalf to renew this contract she's got going. And of course, if they can help it at all, the patrons of the hotel do not want to be part of that. So, and that's the story. That's literally all it is. So, cool. And yeah, and then chat has been hanging out. We've been reading your guys' chats here and there. Thanks for hanging out. I think we might do another stream sooner or later. And it might, I don't know at what point it will be, but probably the next point might be just some DMing and this shared document, typing up some summaries or something. But even if that, like maybe even doing one more live stream before even doing that, but we'll just be in touch about all that. Does that sound good?
It sounds good to me.
Cool. But yeah, I feel it's funny with brainstorming. It's fun. Like, and 3 brains, it's more than one, which sounds obvious, but it's like, it goes pretty fast. And if you just put in the time, you bear fruit, it's like, you have to sit there and kind of throw stuff at the wall or whatever. You know, it's a good test. Sometimes when I'm collaborating is like, you can tell if the person listening, if they kind of like inadvertently like laugh or whatever, not because it's funny, but maybe because like it's badass or whatever. If you get them like kind of a reaction like subconscious reaction or whatever, like, oh, we're on to something. And we definitely had moments of that with this where like we're saying shit and you're like, oh yeah, like whatever, it's working. The one there was like even saying like starting with a guy who inherits plantation. It is like, it makes you chuckle because it's like, okay, this is a trope, but it's the reason I kind of like it because it's like so efficient.
It's a good trope.
Like get it rolling, and use it. Cool. All right, I'm gonna push end stream here. So you guys hang out for just a second. We'll say hi behind the scenes too. But thank you,
All right,
chat,
sounds
for being
good.
here.